understand that, but it just seems a disservice to the home.
I'm going to disagree with you all. I'm sorry, but I think the solar panels, the solid black ones, are completely invisible on an asphalt roof. I've seen them many times, and no one notices them in the rain. They kind of sparkle gently, and everyone says, where are the solar panels? Because they're sort of invisible. That's my opinion. I think that they would barely be visible on an asphalt roof. If you go to Green Logic, they have the solid black panels, and an array of 16 can just almost seamlessly look, no one will notice, if you ask me, because they're not shiny, they're not blue, they're just solid black, and they kind of melt into the asphalt. That's what I've seen.
And I feel like we're just going to have to, I don't like to look at solar panels anywhere, but that's certainly not going to be the way, it's not an appropriate stance. Even in a non-historic setting, that we're going to have to get more in tune with what would be appropriate going forward. Yeah. So, as much as the thing that they showed, and these people are from the state, they're training us all about historic preservation, and they show a barn with these things like just right up like you have. And I did find it shocking, but then after I saw your application, I thought, well, maybe I need to wake up and smell the coffee, I guess, about what's going on with the climate and also. So I think that it's on an outbuilding, it's far away. I do admit that it's not perfect, but I'm not sure we're in that situation. So I would not deny your application. And the other stuff, the fence and the hedge, fine.
Part of the reason I'm doing this is there are two catalysts for me doing this. Well, three if I need to re-roof the garage anyway, so I started thinking about this. But I've always felt a little bit, with all the insulation and everything I did as much as I could when I renovated the house, I've always felt a little, not so much guilt, but that I'm behind the curve in terms of sustainability and carbon footprint in that house. It's pretty efficient, but there are limitations. The house is post and beam construction, so there are real limitations about the energy efficiency of the house. So that was really the biggest catalyst for doing it. I know also, since I am in the construction world, I know New York State is considering, it's not in yet, but in addition, or as part of sort of the HERS process, they're considering requiring people in a phased way to actually generate, not just be carbon neutral, but to generate portions of their own electricity in the building code, at least for new construction. And with that spirit in mind, I've spoken to a lot of neighbors, but also a lot of other people in the historic district. And there's a sentiment out there, this is going to come before you again, because other people want to do this sort of thing, for the same reasons that I do, to try to contribute a little bit. So, and I mentioned to Alex that it might be helpful to try to develop some kind of guidelines. Full disclosure, Sag Harbor prohibits anything that's visible in this historic district that's visible from
facing the street.
They're one of, I think, 6 or 7 historic districts that do that in the country. There are about 11 or 12 that I've found that allow it, subject to minimizing the visibility, that sort of thing. You've probably done some of the same research.
Yeah, I went and read their code.
Yeah.
All right, so I think you sort of see where everyone's standing, trying to figure out, should we break this into 2 votes, or should we? Because I feel like I know you have support for the fence.
Mm-hmm.
So do it.
But I'm not sure you have full support for the solar panels.
Well, I think that would depend on whether Rob wants to make any changes to his application.
In terms of location of the panels, or
location, or Tesla shingles instead of panels.
Oh, so I'll just a quick primer. There are Tesla shingles.
They're blue, right?
No one recommends them at the moment. The big promise was that they could make them look like anything, and eventually they'd look like cedar shingles. That was a big promise when they were introduced 8 years ago.
They're not there yet. Yeah.
They're not there yet. They're technically not great. They're not very reliable. When they are reliable and installed correctly, they generate about 60% less energy than panels. So there's another thing which I looked at as well, which is a standing seam metal roof with black low-profile panels that can go in between, which I think might have looked even better than this. Problem with those is they're brand new, they're untested, they're about 3 times as expensive, and they generate about 40% electricity. than traditional solar panels. So, I won't go through all the, cost-benefit analysis, but unfortunately, the solar shingle promise may never happen. It's certainly not developed the way they expected when they were introduced.
Yeah, we had another house here last year that was trying to put them on, but I don't know what happened. They never built that house.
Among other things, this array of 26 panels will have a total of about 52 connections, 2 per panel. The solar shingles will have about 6,800 on my roof. And if any one of them fails, it can take down large portions of the grid of the shingles. So that's been the biggest problem with the shingles. Besides, also people don't like the aesthetics. They haven't made the aesthetics right yet. They look like the shingles that used to be on McDonald's when I was a kid. Those thick plastic shingles. That's what they look like.
Yeah, because somebody else was here with a Canadian company. It was a company out of Canada with a new shingle attached thing, but they never built the house.
Yeah.
So I can't see it.
Just so you know, they're much less efficient. So it's a step in the right direction, but big decline in the power that's generated. So is it on the garage? I can't do the math. Is it 2-2? Is it is Kathy
I
a
think
voting
it's
member?
3-2.
I think you're at 3-2.
Yeah, Kathy is a voting member,
Okay.
and she can vote remotely.
Okay.
And even at 2-2,
But how do
you'd
we
be at a
set a
denial.
precedent for solar? It just can't be visible from the street? Is that the question?
In historic district. Well, that's more a code issue we actually need from the village standpoint too.
Right. Because I've seen a lot of panels in the historic district, and I'm just wondering what precedent we're setting.
It would be a precedent for contributing structures or properties that contain contributing structures, probably.
I understand. I've heard from a reliable source that there has been an approval for panels on a contributing structure in the historic district.
Not in my 5
On
years.
post crossing, but
Yeah.
there is. It exists. Yeah. And Mark, I hear your concerns entirely. The only issue I have is I really have no other place to put them. So what you're effectively saying is I can't generate any power on my property.
Or they would have to go at the back where they wouldn't be as efficient.
Yeah.
I know.
I've had the
They
study
will.
done.
Yeah, I know.
It's not worth the cost. Well, I'm happy to have it divided into 2, if that makes it easier. Essentially treat it as 2 votes and 2 applications.
And this is
Is that
COA.
because you want to adjourn part of it?
No, I'd rather but I don't. I'd rather have a vote on the whole thing. But if there are, again, Kathy, I apologize. I wasn't sure I heard whether you were a reluctant supporter or whether you were against it.
I'm against it.
Okay.
So we don't have a written decision prepared, so this would just be to direct council to prepare one for the next meeting. So effectively a straw poll at this point.
Well,
I can do one decision that approves the fence
And
and
denies the other.
yeah, that's not a problem.
You could withdraw the other one.
Yeah.
Or we could bifurcate it if you wanted to adjourn and come back with something else. Those are the options as I see them.
I'm going to suggest you bifurcate it and let's get the fence done
And adjourn the rest.
and adjourn that thing, and that gives you, at least you don't have a no, then you can think about it and see if there is another option you want to think about.
Okay. All right.
I think that's good advice.
I think it is good advice too. I've just so you know, I've already gone through about 20 iterations of this, and I'm pretty sure there's not another iteration. So what I'm hearing effectively, you don't know this, but what I'm hearing effectively is I can't put solar on my property, and that's disappointing to hear. So I want to, but let me think about it, and maybe
It's worth everyone thinking about it.
let everyone think about it. And
Yeah, maybe document it.
if
like
there
how they
were,
look.
if there were other things that could do additional screening, or things that would, reduction in size a little bit. The size of the array right now is roughly the amount of power that the house would use. But it would still be a benefit to have something smaller. But it doesn't sound like a degree like that, which would affect your thinking, Mark, in particular. And
Well,
not yours, Jane.
by rules here, we look at what's in front of us. So
I know.
if something else came back, we would might look at it
Something
differently.
else.
But
Okay.
but I think to be fair to you,
Visibility from the street was improved by planting a tree, like where I don't know how that would work.
Yeah.
Because obviously you can't have a tree by the solar panel, but if you
Can have a-
put a tree somewhere so that it could
I mean, the reason it gets sun is because it's right down the driveway, so I can't plan to drain the driveway. But I could think about some additional screening.
So my
and-
best advice is let us bifurcate this.
Yes.
And think about it.
Yeah.
And maybe it'll give us something different to think about at the same time. But I don't think you have the support for the solar panels, and I think you have the support for the fence. So I'd like to be able you to be able to move forward with what you have support for.
Okay. I'm just going to look around. I know I have some neighbors who said they might show up, but it doesn't seem like anyone, no public.
Okay. Well, they may be I'm going to ask for public opinion here, so maybe they'll show
Okay.
up. To that end, anyone from the public?
Hi, Mackie Finnerty, Woolley Street. I'm actually shocked and incredibly disappointed. The single most important thing that's happening on our planet is what to do about the environment. And to say in preservation, he's done everything he possibly can. And you're talking about from 4 feet, how many people are going down that street and can see over a 4-foot fence to the top of a roof way in the back of a property? It just doesn't seem credible to me. And the trade-off, look at our village. Not only the historic district, but lots of historic houses. I live on a street where they were built in around 1900, 1905. They're not an historic district. They weren't considered important because it was a working class neighborhood. It would just roll out solar. So we would be this backward village that just can't move itself forward because we don't like a view from a road that, it's hard enough to drive down that street. I don't think a lot of people are going to be looking at his garage in the back. And he's supposed to trade off burning all this fuel into the environment that we're all using every single day when he's trying to solve that problem. So to have that as a policy is really shocking to me. And I hope that you really consider that the most important thing we can do right now is save our environment, or else we're not going to save ourselves. So please consider this. You showed that it's the actual policy, it's allowed, but to not allow it when it's allowed, I was just shocked. So I hope you give it a lot of thought and reconsider. It should be our top priority, what we can do about our environment. And we love our old houses, and it's a great house. And I think he's done everything he can to accommodate both. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone online? Okay. So, council, we're going to bifurcate this?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to do a motion to move to written decision to approve the fence and planting as presented from documents posted, what's the post date? Posted at the village on August 13th, 2024. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And you want an adjournment?
I'd like to adjourn the rest of the application.
Okay.
for further
Motion to
consideration.
adjourn the application for the solar panels from documents presented to the building, stamped to the building department on August 13th, 2024 to, we'll do the next meeting, to October 28th. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And Rob, I'd like to compliment you on your presentation. It's
That was great.
fantastic.
And I also
I really
compliment
like the
your
moving
house.
garage.
I love the moving garage.
I compliment your house. Your house is gorgeous.
Thank you. I know, look, the other reason I want to bring this application, I want to bring it for all the reasons I mentioned, but this issue will come up. There's a lot of historic houses, even not in the historic district, who are going to want and may at some future point be required to
Well,
generate
it's
electricity.
It's a good thing for actually to take back to the mayor and for the village to talk about as well, because the code is not clear.
Yeah.
So thank you.
I think maybe, sorry if I may continue, just
Oh.
there's a difference between the blue crystallized solar panels and the black invisible ones. So that may be something to consider as well.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. Okay, so that takes us to the next page, which is when forum was adjourned. Takes us to 106 Powell Avenue to construct 2-story single-family dwelling, and we're now in non-historic carryover matters. Hello.
Good evening.
If
Nicholas
you-
Vero, architect for the Taderos.
I'm serious.
Great.
Okay, at our last meeting, this board recommended a few changes that we looked at seriously, took into consideration, and I think we moved to correct those issues that the board had with this house. So if we look at the roof line in particular, we had some opposing materials touching each other on the gable ends. We had roof returns at the ends of our gable, so we eliminated those and cleaned that whole fascia line up. We changed the color of our roof. We're going with a charcoal blend, which is a black grayish roof, which
I'm sorry, what did you change of the roof?
we changed the color of the roof. We came in last time with a weathered wood, going with a charcoal blend. Because we're going to do a black and white house. My clients decided they want to do a black and white house now.
Wow, okay.
Okay? And that's, those are the changes that we made. I also.
Do you have a sample of the charcoal blend?
I-
Oh, sorry, it's so far down there. So
Yeah.
could you point,
There was
it's
my-
really dark. Okay, go ahead.
We're going with a white shingle. With reference to windows, there was comments about grill patterns, which we changed, which is particularly in the middle of the roof where there's a window that goes into our two-story space. I actually made the windows in that section of the house, in the middle of the house, longer so all of our sills match. And I lowered the pitch of the metal standing seam roof to accommodate the elongated window. So all of our windows, both first and second floor, align at the top, they align at our sills.
Would
We
you
all-
mind just turning that all the other
Sure,
way?
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I apologize. I'm just seeing it now.
Thank you.
There we go. Thank you.
I thought last time, okay.
Yeah, I'm confused.
Okay.
Okay. At the suggestion of the board, I made the front door a little more prominent by adding two side lights on each side of the door. By doing that, I had to narrow the door. I was originally doing with a 42-inch front door, and now we're down to a 36-inch door, but I do have the two side lights. I also made our coach lanterns longer, and as part of my submission that you have in my package, I have a catalog cut in there, and you can see the size of those sconces that we're doing. I believe they're 25 and almost 26 inches long as opposed to the 18-inch ones I had prior to our last submission. Those are the changes that I made in the front elevation. There was also a suggestion, I apologize. We eliminated, there were two windows up in the attic space, two square windows that we eliminated at the suggestion of this board. And I believe those are the suggestions at the board, and we
Yeah, but we
accommodated
had a
those.
totally different thing going on before. right?
You're talking about the north? Yeah.
North elevation, correct.
Yeah, the house was colored differently last time. I
Yes.
looked at it.
Well, originally we thought that we were going to go more with a natural look, with a grayish color and a different color roof. But after consulting with my clients, they decided they wanted to stick very vanilla black and white house.
Okay. That's the north elevation. You want to take us to the other elevations?
The rear elevation, the south elevation, again, we eliminated, there were a couple of windows that seemed a little disjointed, especially in the middle of the house, which is our great room. There were some transom windows up there that the board suggested that I, look at them more carefully. So I eliminated one line of windows that were up in that gable end. I increased the size of the transom windows directly above the door, brought them up to the line of the bottom of the gable. And I also eliminated, there was another attic window up above the second floor gable that we eliminated also. Again, same details on the front as I depict here. Eliminated those two, the roof line returns. On the west elevation, suggestion was a little bit more of a more conforming door, keeping in spirit of the front elevation. So I changed the side door, which is the mudroom entrance, again to a 3/4 inch door. And I believe those are the only revisions that I had made on the west elevation.
Oh, you also added some light fixtures.
Excuse me?
You also added some
Yes, we added the light
surface mounted
fixtures
light
on the
fixtures.
side. And on the east elevation, I don't think there are any changes, other than the fact that we do have the basement entry coming from the back of the house down into the basement, and I just included our railing detail on the east elevation. And it wasn't on the last elevation, last submission that we made. And I believe those were the only changes that I made on the east elevation.
And the lantern, is that dark skies compliant?
I believe it is.
Doesn't on the tear sheet say so.
I will make sure that it is, according to where I went to the website, it was, because I looked up.
Doesn't, I mean, it doesn't look like it's not, but I'd like to know.
Okay.
There's the tear sheet somewhere.
It's in the back there somewhere. I'm not talking first. Someone else will have to start.
Okay, board members.
I think I was the one that had mentioned the front door at the last meeting, and I think this is a good progress. To me, the side lights still look a little oversized. I don't know, you could maybe take a look at that, and the door could be a little bigger and the side lights a little smaller. I mean, just to start with the door. Anyway.
May I comment to that? If we make the side light
Sure.
smaller, if we make the side light smaller, we're going to lose the effectiveness of the glass as it is with an 18-inch white side light. We have about 10.5 inches of glass in there by the time you have framing around this thing. So if I make them a little bit narrow, we're going to wind up with 6 inches of glass, and I think that would lose the effectiveness of having side lights in the door. So that's why I chose 18 inches. And I didn't want to cram the side lights in the door in between the the space between the windows that we have in that entrance way.
Other comments, Kathy?
Well, and also, so now the house is white,
Correct.
black and white, so it's nothing to do with what we're looking at in this package, the shingle house. Is that correct?
The
It's
package-
painted shingles, I think, is that right?
It's still shingle, but I think they're painting them white.
Okay.
And
Right.
now the standing seam roof
It's
is
black.
black, whereas it
It
was.
was a
So
it was a grayish color.
Right, so the submission that I'm looking at, right, so you haven't updated that to reflect that the house is black and white. Is that correct?
No,
They're
I have.
Tiny little
I have.
They have
Clues.
I have the.
written.
Kathy, there's been a subsequent submission, I think, to the one.
Okay, so it's not the one that's in the Dropbox. That shows the house, the shingled house.
The one that's in the Dropbox should be the one that I resubmitted last week.
You hope. I didn't look in the Dropbox, it's not my.
I emailed drawings, I dropped off drawings, revised drawings showing the black and white house, so.
Okay. Well. Okay.
I was absent for the
That
last
seems like a
meeting.
big shock to me, that black and white house, but I don't know, I'll wait to hear from everyone else.
I was not here for the last meeting, so this is the first time that I'm really looking at this closely. And I have to admit that you're calling it dark gray, but the window trim is going to be that color?
The window trim is going to be white.
The window trim is white,
Window
but the
trim is white.
windows themselves are
White,
white.
yes.
Okay, so what is exactly the gray then?
The gray
Just
is
the roof?
just the roof. The roof is gray, or it's a black. Actually, it turned out to be a lighter, that's the color right there. It turned out to be almost a grayish color. It's not black. And the charcoal blend roof is a black and gray roof, an architectural grade. So you're going to see some variants of some dark grays and some blacks and some lighter grays.
Yeah, I'd like to see a little bit less black looking with the white.
Okay, on both.
On everything.
Okay.
I personally, a black, so what I'm seeing here is what you really are seeing is a black standing seam roof and a black asphalt roof, and the rest of it drops out. And there is one on West Prospect, on Prospect Street, there's a black standing seam roof that I think is a totally unsuccessful application. I don't see that there are any black roofs in Southampton Village, nor do I think there probably should be, at least, I mean, seeing that little house on Prospect Street, which I drive past often. So the change to the White House with the black roof and roofs.
Roofs.
You sure? Anyway,
Yes.
one or the other, I think is disharmonious in the village and really, I don't think the house should be known for its roofing, that should be the salient feature. The rest of it, I think you did improve, sir.
Thank you.
Nina?
Yeah, I would research, there are a lot of White Houses in the historic district, just research what
It's
they
not
do.
historic, is it?
We're
It's
not,
on
No.
Powell
we're not
Avenue.
historic, right?
Yeah.
But to your point, yes,
Yeah, just, neighborhood harmony in terms of roofing and White House. And then the elevation, I believe that you've done these window seats in the bedrooms and they're a nice architecture, they add to the architectural pleasure of a bedroom. I do believe window seats are a good thing, but the way that they pop out in the elevation, they break up the black roof. It's hard to read the elevation because
It's flat.
it's sort of breaking up the sort of elegant linearity of the top story, and there's sort of a little break in the north elevation where those pop out. Maybe it's just the way that it's drawn, and if it was in 3D, it wouldn't appear to create that little dip.
It might pop out some more if it was in 3D, so. I mean,
Yeah,
it's sticking out, it's coming out of the front of the house 18 inches.
yeah,
From the plane of, of the gables, it is coming out 18 inches to effectively get window seats in both those bedrooms.
yeah,
Over the black standing seam roof.
yeah, which just
Yeah.
seems a little. That joint between the black standing seam roof and the popping out of the window seat seems a little.
So what I'm hearing is if we tone down the color of the roof and not be a
Well,
stark black.
let me-
Okay,
Yeah,
I apologize.
let
Okay,
me,
I apologize.
All right. I mean, the house that we looked at before, which is a more traditional coloring, I don't think the standing seam and the black roof was as striking because now you've taken sort of a more traditional house and you've made it extremely graphic. And I think what I'm hearing is people are finding that like sort of disharmonious of that neighborhood and a little stark. The other two comments I would say is I think you listened great. Thank you. Taking the windows out of the third story above the seam, I think really simplifies the house down. When you get down to the front door, I think the thing that Kathy may be actually relating to is in the submission that you did before, the two windows to the left and right of the door were smaller. So not only have you added the two side lights, you've also made the windows bigger. And those windows go into light a stairwell and another area. And I think breaking the rhythm and making those windows smaller celebrates the door. And then I think the door and the side lights, as they are, might feel more in proportion to where they do right now because you made those windows bigger. I think, when we look at the east elevation where you've added the railing for the basement access, I think is great. In the back of the house, on the south elevation, the only argument is, the thing we complained about was you had that 8 gang of windows, and we weren't even in love with the transoms. But now the transoms have gotten bigger, and where everywhere else I look, your windows seem to fall from rake boards on the second floor. Suddenly you've pierced that plane. I think the 4 transoms that you've put above the sliders have become too big. I think they need to come down and follow the same sort of architectural language you have around the rest of the house, where they would be smaller and hang from the rake board. Those would be my suggestions. I think increasing the size of the light fixtures made a huge difference because before they looked a little small and now they feel a little more proportionate. For some reason, it's around here in one of these thousands of pieces of paper. I don't know if I'm assuming they're dark sky compliant. That's not them.
It's not?
Is that the fixture?
Let's,
We had another piece of paper roaming. Is that the fixture?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'm wrong then, okay. Well, they're shielded from the top, but we need to find out if they're dark sky
They
compliant.
only have 2 lights in them, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not a complete dunce about this, but
Yeah.
it should say,
Yes,
It should.
and it says a lot of things.
And when I
but
went to the
not
site,
that.
I specifically asked
So,
for it.
so I think we've
That's what-
simplified and make right progress. In that progress, I think you're hearing some concern about the front door and the front porch area of the house, and I think it's that's window to door ratio change that you made has not been successful. And I think what you're hearing most of all is the coloration. This very stark graphic coloration does not feel harmonious for that neighborhood.
For sure. I mean, honestly, I think you need to drive down the street and check out what's around there.
And this sort of stark black-white house,
We're not in love with anymore.
it's just, it doesn't feel like that street. I know we have a few of them in the village, and when you drive around, they're already looking
Not
like,
black windows.
no, I know, but now you're driving around, they're starting to look a little
Yeah.
dated. But I just don't, I think that stark look
Yeah.
of that house it's too arresting for where you're trying to put it. I think your original coloration in the house was more successful for the neighborhood, is what you're hearing.
Agreed.
So what would you like to do?
Sure.
No choice but to adjourn, unless you want me to, tell you I'm gonna change the colors and go from there, but obviously you have to see it and approve it, is that correct?
Well, the door and stuff needs attention. Right?
I think we need to see it, so I think we're going to have to adjourn.
Yeah,
Okay?
but we're.
But let me see if there's any comments from the public. Anyone? Sir? Okay,
You have to
please come
come
up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Your name, sir?
Joseph Tadaro.
Thank you.
I'm the homeowner. There was recently a house built, maybe 5 houses east of us, and it's a box. It's horrible. I don't know how that got approved. We're on a road that has industrial across the street, which I'm only improving or proposing to improve what we presently have. So the black roof, we could change to charcoal or light,
Go lighter.
like the garage. And then the bump outs, if you're, the stand-in seam on the bump outs, not good.
Right.
Are we reacting to that or reacting to the stark coloration of them?
Well, it seems weird, though, that you would, in that span, that then you would have the bump out. I don't think those two things go together much.
When you said-
If you kept the line, you could decrease the size of the windows just a little bit, and they wouldn't overlap with the roof underneath them.
Well, I wouldn't be able to have a bump out then, because, gables back, window seats out, so the roof line has to cut around like that you're seeing right there, so, that's definitely gonna do that, that's not going to change. Unless I eliminated the window seats, and that's the whole effect of what's going on in the room upstairs.
We'll try softening the color of the roof and see what that does, and look at some precedents, historic precedents.
I mean,
What drove
Is
your
the board- is the board
change?
of-
What drove your change from? What were the colorations last time?
Well, I had a charcoal
We-
roof, which was too dark.
We
but
were
didn't
still going with the
get that
charcoal,
far.
no, I think we were going, not with the charcoal roof, I think we were doing a weathered wood.
A weathered
really?
wood,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wood and a
It was a,
tannish gray house.
Safari beige.
Right, it was safari
Yes.
beige, right, which is
yeah,
a great
that was
tannish house,
a
right.
more traditional coloration.
Well, we did a detached garage and were approved three years ago or 4 years ago. And we had like a charcoal roof. I don't remember the exact name, but that's what we were gonna use. It's not going to be black, so we could change that, because I'm not gonna re-roof the garage.
How would you?
And which isn't, it's not dark.
Yeah.
It's actually light. And there again, I forgot the name of it. So are you opposed to the standing seam?
I think the color of the standing seam, I think it's too black and white. So
There-
perhaps if
There are
we-
places in the village that have
grayish color.
Yeah, I know the house on
Standing
Prospect.
standing seam roofs.
With a complete.
Well, they have black windows
They
also.
have black everything.
No, I don't, I'm opposed to the black windows, and that's,
I don't think that was a successful use of material.
I think
Right.
generally where you see the standing seam rooms, the history of them used to be they were either lead-coated copper or they were
Right,
copper. So
right.
the coloration, the sort of mimic
right.
grays and coppers
Grays.
are less stark and striking than very dark standing seam roofs. And I think that's one of the reasons we try to avoid them, because there are some extremely contemporary locations where we've used them occasionally. But in a more traditional house, I think that jarring color is just too dark.
Mark, what about like a pewter, or if we went to?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
That's
Like
yeah.
more of a light gray,
that's
pewter color.
that's what colors they tend to be, because they tend to mimic like
Okay.
lead-coated copper.
All right,
So they're sort of a pewter color, and then it's softer.
okay. Well, we'll get you,
Actually, North
Sample.
Main Street, there's this relatively new house north of the highway that
Yeah.
has these black roofs. It's also jarring.
Because I think we're down to just.
oh, I know that, I
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah.
house.
okay.
Because I think
That's
it's
where I'm
I think
coming
it's
from.
Right.
the shape of the house is
bring
great
that
and the
up.
location's great.
I just passed it yesterday. I know the house you're talking about.
And if your garage already has a light gray roof on it that you want to match the house,
Yes.
that will work. And I think if you looked at it sounds like if you looked at the coloration on your standing seam and brought it back into that sort of softer pewter range,
Yeah.
that's going to be less black and white stark than what we're seeing here on this house. And I think just the other few adjustments, the size of the windows by the doors and some of your adjustments in the back are actually fairly minor. I think we're almost there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Is there any, no, but,
All right, great.
and thank you.
No.
Is there just anything else you guys would tell the homeowners so we give you all the information you would have?
so 12-inch side lights as opposed to maybe the 18-inch.
What I think you want to look at is I think the bigger, I'll let Kathy speak to that because that's her comment. To me, the increase in the size of the windows on either side sort of threw it a little bit from the drawings that you brought in last time, where those side windows from the front door were actually smaller. And one lights a stairway and one lights like a hallway, so I don't think they need to be as big. But also broke up a strict rhythm across the front of the house.
Oh,
which
okay,
felt
so
nice.
you don't, I thought it would be, like Nick and I had said, maybe having that same plane across the bottom of
Yeah.
all of
No, I
those
actually-
windows. If we bring those up, I'm
Yeah.
not opposed to
I
that.
think
either.
that, and those are a little bit smaller. I think the door may not look as out of proportion, as wonky, as bad architecture, as wonky as it kind of does right now. But
And then the only reason why we went with a little bit bigger transom in the back as opposed to the two that we initially had was because that's the only light that we have coming in besides the doors, which
Yeah,
we'll have.
Right.
But to Mark's point is that there's one detail, he wanted us to carry that detail across, and that's one area where it pierced the freeze board.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
So
it just feels
Understood.
inconsistent.
Understood.
So that's not a big adjustment. These are
Okay.
small,
getting
but
pretty good.
Thank you.
so you can be ready by the 28th of October.
We'll be ready by Columbus Day.
week.
if you're not here.
I know. I'm sorry.
We
Well, I'm
can't
not
opt-
sorry.
Can we knock the house down before?
Yeah, I mean.
I think you.
Do you have a demo?
I think they can.
Well, wait.
Yeah,
do
we
you have
had
a
think
demo?
that was
program?
already
We were just gonna hold off.
You can knock your house
Yeah, we
down.
can start doing that then.
Do you have a
Wait,
demo?
don't take it. You gotta ask.
Well, you need a building permit.
That's
but
a
you have
building
the,
department.
You have a
the
demo
approvals.
permit?
Yeah.
Oh, no,
we'll have to.
we were.
You need the
You
you
guys
need the
approved
building
this, right? We have
permit.
to pull it
Yeah,
together.
you have to get like your disconnects.
So I'm
letters
gonna
and all that.
motion to accept the applicant's request for an adjournment to October 28th for what's my street
One
address?
Thank you.
Powell, something,
106
190
Powell Avenue. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
And I'm gonna. Has that color rendering, was that submitted to the file, the one that you showed tonight?
I believe it was, but we can-
Was there-
There's some
Was there a
random,
color?
Okay, thank you.
Was there a color?
I didn't see it
I
on.
didn't either.
Okay, so we'll
So
make
that
sure for the
takes us
revisions that we get the
to
color.
9 Bauer Drive. This is New Matters, Benjamin Rensler. Do you have the affidavits and are they in order?
Yes and yes.
Great. Big drugs.
Good evening. My name is Brian Glasser. I'm the architect representing Ben Rensler. And just to kind of get started, my client, when he purchased the land roughly 8 years ago, he currently had a house in East Hampton. He's been there for over 50 years. and he just sold his property, saw a similar project, Gambrel style. So that's kind of where this all came about. Similar house that I did. It's a completely different home, but similar to an East Hampton Village home that I worked on. But just to get started here, the current property that he owns is it's on the south side of Bauer Drive in the cul-de-sac. The current lot is just over a half acre. And just so everyone's aware that the current design is up to date, and it was something that I had a little glitch internally with, that I'm used to designing to the original codes, but this house was brought up to today's standards with GFA and accessory, garage structures.
I'm sorry, can you repeat
What?
that?
The code changed in
Yeah,
April.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention.
So had
I
you
just wanted to
submitted
mention-
this house before and now you're resubmitting it because you've updated the house, or?
Yeah, no. So when I submitted originally, with the zoning, it was originally based on what it was
Okay.
allowed, and then the code changed. So I had to update the scale and size of the house. It's much
Okay.
smaller to what you're seeing. Yeah,
Okay.
everything you're looking at now is the code.
Okay,
Is basically what I'm
that's
saying.
good.
Yeah, and the past houses that I've worked on, this is smaller.
And the
to-
renderings that you're submitting now based on,
This is exactly what. Yes.
okay.
Yep.
That confused me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to. It was a little bit of a. We originally submitted. That's why I'm bringing it up. That we had to make some changes just to clarify. If anyone had any questions, what? So anyway, the current piece of property is it's vacant land. The proposed house that we're requesting to have built is it's going to be a shingle style gambrel with gambrel proportions. I looked on your website on the architectural design guidelines for historic districts and landmarks. So when it comes to materials, proportions, those are things that I try to follow suit with. Some of the topics that they brought up were, complex systems of multiple gambrel roof lines.
Good.
I also, sorry.
No, go.
Oh, yeah. They also mentioned about natural cedar, siding, dark trim colors around the windows and casings. Moving forward with the exterior materials, I have basically starting from what we're proposing for the chimneys are going to be a brick chimney with a Danish blend. The roofing material is going to be a tapered sawn pressure treated red cedar. The gutters and leaders are going to be lead coated copper, half round gutters and round leaders. The siding material that you see here is a perfection shingle, which is also red cedar left natural. The windows that we're going with are going to be a gray tone from Marvin. It's an ultimate product. All the trim, which is also a matching to the window color, would be a PVC product. The columns in the front, we ended up going with a tapered cedar column with painted brackets. Our patios are going to be a blue stone material, natural stone. The handrails would be a mahogany newel post with solid mahogany top rail and balusters, which is also mahogany. The wall sconces, which I believe there's only one, we provided a cut sheet, which is, it's a gas lantern, which can be converted, God bless you, to a dark sky compliant electrical light.
I don't see that in here.
It's the front.
Oh,
It's
it's
this
the front.
little, yeah.
Oh, that.
So, yeah, dark sky compliant, and then basically what they do is,
Oh, okay.
yeah, this
Sorry, I'm
product,
sorry.
Yeah.
they do gas, but you can have it converted to electric, and they basically hang the bulb on the top, and then they provide a copper cap so the light shines down.
Okay.
And that's pretty much the presentation right now.
Well, this is a stark contrast to the architecture.
That's in the neighborhood.
Surrounding.
Yeah, it's, I noticed in the neighborhood, there's asphalt roofs. It's a little,
Yeah, well, stay tuned.
yeah,
Well, you'll put that neighborhood into transition.
Yeah, you're gonna do it.
hopefully.
Okay, board members, thoughts?
I think it's a great looking house. I think it really improves the neighborhood. And I don't have any major issues with your materials or your windows. And
Kathy?
I agree with Jane, I think it's a great looking house. I don't really have any comments on it.
Nina?
I think it's symmetrical, well proportioned, shingles and trim, everything looks great. I did have a question about the mahogany. Is that a FSC? Is that or responsibly sourced wood, mahogany? Could we use teak or something? Trying to get up our.
Yeah, so, I will say, the only area that actually has that product is actually on the lower level for the stairwell. The actual decking up on top would be an epay, but it's hidden. And on the rear elevation, you'll notice that we don't have, this is where there's a tiny rooftop terrace tucked away. So, and it's all cedar roof coming up, so it's not like we don't have exposed, mahogany railings wrapping around in multiple areas. It's really just on the first floor around this window well.
Could you do a little research on a more responsibly sourced source of wood?
Yeah,
There's a lot of options.
yeah. You know what it is? Actually, typically I'd use eBay.
Right.
So, and that's just kind of like a standard spec that we do. This was brought up by my client to use mahogany, which when I was even looking at the notes, it was brought up. I'm like, oh, and then I reached out to him and he said that this was kind of like a typical, style that he was like looking for based on this other project that I worked on that they used mahogany. That's how it came up. So, I don't know about. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to answer that. Just honestly, if I don't want to just say, yeah, we could change it, but he's definitely going to want a natural wood.
Yeah, natural wood options. There are other options.
Yeah.
I think it's an endangered wood, right? It's sort of no in terms of.
I mean, like I said, to put your mind at ease, there's not a lot. I mean, maybe it's not that much. It's probably 5, 15. It's probably like 30, 25 feet worth.
And where's that wood being used?
It would be just around this window well.
We'll see if you can do a little research.
Yeah. You know what's funny? We used to always call it mahogany, and then recently I noticed that it was never getting spec'd, and I just always kind of resorted to ePay. So that's something that I didn't. 10 years ago.
I put in a mahogany deck, which rotted through completely in a very
That's the
short
other
period
thing.
of time because they're telling me the mahogany that you're buying now, besides being endangered, it's actually not working well. I replaced it with ePay, but it didn't last more than 10 years, which when I first put it in, I was like,
The mahogany didn't.
Yeah, I was like, it's supposed to last longer than that.
I'm going to look into it. It's just funny you mentioned it and you're saying that. I never thought the mahogany recently I didn't think it was that great. I'm like, growing up, you think, wow, mahogany decking and all this stuff, and then you realize that it's not that great. And I was specking it like 10 years ago on all these jobs, and now all of a sudden,
None of
it's
it's center
kind
cut
of
anymore. It's a whole bunch of questions
It's
about
like
it. Yeah.
windows.
Yeah.
I think your house looks good. Good for you.
I think it looks like a Bryan house, which is a good thing. Is the pool really back up to Hampton Road?
Yeah, so there's a parking lot just to the south of us.
Yeah, and the deck looks over that
What is
mixed
that?
use-
What?
was a concern.
mixed use
I pushed-
business park over there.
Yeah, I tucked it in. Yeah,
That's such a weird little place. And
it's a little nook. Yeah.
He bought it 8 years ago. Because I've been wondering for years what's happened to Libby. You
Yeah,
can run across the
2016.
street to Ted's and get the best sandwich in town.
2016. Yeah, 2016. Yeah.
Ted's Market.
Ted's Market right across the street. Best egg sandwich in town. All right.
Girls.
Do we have any comments from the public?
Linda Riley.
Linda Riley.
Yes.
I agree that it's a good-looking house. I have no problems with any of the materials or the way it looks. It will bring the neighborhood up. I agree with you. So, but I do have a sort of different kind of point to make. I have no problems with the architecture really at all. And the point I want to make has to do with really, if I can point.
You can point.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, just take the other microphone and just use this other microphone.
Right. It's a very oddly shaped lot, as you can see, and it comes down into a flag. Well, I think it's a flag strip. I don't know what it is.
There's a cul-de-sac at the end, and it's like it's
Oh.
a narrow opening off a cul-de-sac that
I live
opens
next
into
door.
it. Oh, okay.
I'm
She's
the
down there.
Okay.
I'm the adjacent owner,
Okay.
directly to the east. So, and you can see how our houses line up here. And actually, the way my driveway comes out, it'll be right next to it. But he has no other place to put his driveway. I'm not commenting on that. It has to be here. But what I'm trying to say is the house, when you look at it from the front, is not what you're going to see from the street at all. Because what you're going to see from the street is this gabled part that's sticking out here, which is okay, but it means that what you're really going to see is parking. You're going to see cars because it's a relatively restrained lot, and I think that if and what also happens is you're going to have two side-by-side driveways. A lot of this screening, I don't think there's enough room for this screening that's shown here, which is different than kind of what showed on your other plans. But what I'm trying to say is the garage is here. So when you come up the driveway, it comes into a very small one-car garage in the front, which is so tight here. It's from the edge of the garage to here is 29 feet, and they need some buffer area here. I think this is a little off. And what I'm really trying to say is, I don't think you can get a car in the garage. And
That would be great for you.
No, it wouldn't.
Why?
Because
they wouldn't drive near your house.
yeah, they'll be stacked up. They'll be stacked up the driveway.
I don't know what you can do about that.
You can answer.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
Put your
No,
mind
you're
at
not.
ease.
Yeah.
Yeah, to put
I'm
your mind
sorry,
at ease
but
with
both of you
can't do
have to
that.
address your comments to the board.
So one, I hear the neighbor's comments here. I will say, yes, there is roughly 29 feet. We have a 5-foot planting buffer just on our property alone and whatever she currently has, allowing us for 24 feet for the garage, between the garage door and the edge of the driveway. I will say commercial parking requirements, if you go into any standard parking lot, 24 feet to pull into a stall, that is a standard dimension to pull a car in and out of the. And also, just to add, parking is towards the west.
On the west border, what's your setback on the west side?
So so right now the setback to the west is 25.7 feet. To push it over further, really what happens is we have a setback on the front yard in the front corner where we're touching just here. So it's not necessarily just pushing it over, it's also the setback for the egress stairwell. So it's not just a side yard, it's also a front yard. We kind of are sliding it, and like she mentioned, it's kind of an awkward shaped lot. So that's why it has this staggered proportion. It's a half acre, but it wasn't just, you know, your typical coming off the street. There's a lot of square footage in the front that we couldn't use if you look on the actual site plan, not this one. I mean, this kind of shows it as a diagram, but all the square footage here really isn't usable space. So, and when it comes to parking, we do have our parking stalls. We're showing them on the west side and the garage in the front. So,
Yeah, if I can just finish what I was saying.
Please.
It is a 6-bedroom house according to the plans. And there's really only room in that garage, if you can get a car in there. I mean, it would be a small car, but if you could get a car in there and if they actually use it, there are really only 2 spaces left, and then it's stacked up the driveway. And part of my problem was there are two relatively big trees right here.
The person taking our minutes is on Zoom, so if you could speak into the mic, that would be really
Yes.
helpful.
Right where the garage door is going to be, there are now on that lot 2 large trees. They're really the only large trees on there. Everything else is mostly field that's overgrown a little bit. But if that garage, if the house were flipped to the other side, is what I'm trying to say, you'd preserve the 2 big trees that I'm just going to point are right about here. And if it were flipped, you would have more of a, you'd see more of like a front entry looking up the driveway and trees to the side and have the same, basic thing. And by flipped, I just mean reverse it, mirror it in terms of.
I think what he's saying is that's not possible because when you look at the thrust that's on the east side of the house, if you reverse it with the way that thrust comes out forward, if you reverse the house, that would put it inside what is currently the setback because of the shape of the lot.
No, but can I just say one other thing? You could push that back a little bit, so and. You could push this back a little bit and have this come out more, I guess. But the other, I mean, I see what you're saying, but the other thing is there's so much space over here. It's like there's more room for parking. There's more room for everything over here. More room for a garage. It just seemed to me to make sense.
I thought he said that the setback,
So
that's not that different, is it?
yeah, so right now the
It
house,
just
the way it's
appears
situated,
weird.
it's 28 feet
On
on the east side and 25 feet on the
Yeah.
east side. The biggest thing is with also, and this is something I've learned, I mean, in the village, we do try to minimize the amount of driveway. The best thing we could do is to put the parking up by the front door, but to have more parking wrap around. Also, pulling it back, these red lines right here are the setbacks. So you can see here, I'm like pretty much locked in. So if we were, let's just say, we were to entertain putting a garage on the east side, the entire house would be redesigned completely just to make that. And then I would be concerned the neighbor to the west would be like, well, we want the garage on the other side. So for me to juggle, neighbors, this made the most sense to get the driveway. The biggest thing was have it hidden from the street.
Let me ask
and
you
the
this
garage door
question.
hidden from the street.
What's the reality of just picking the house up as is and moving 5 feet to the east?
Yeah.
I can't move it.
I mean, to the west?
Yeah, I can't. Everything's, if you look on the site plan, I'm locked in right now.
Where are you locked in?
Because it-
I'm locked in with the setbacks for the accessory structure on the east side.
What are you talking about?
On the east side, yes.
on the west side?
On the,
Okay,
East
well,
side,
on the
you've
west
got-
side, I'm sorry.
okay, Linda,
I'm looking
gonna
at
say to
west
you,
upside down here.
you've said your comments, so thank you. So, because I don't want to get this in big back and forth. But my question to you is, why can't it move 5 feet to the west?
This is my setback, so if I move this has the slight outside the accessory setback.
I actually think you can, but okay.
I don't think these window wells, they won't allow into the accessory setback because of noise reasons or something.
Okay.
Also, if I pull this back, this is the line here for the rear yard. So if I pull this, let's just say pull this in that corner, this is gonna go outside. See these corners here? These are all my
Right.
corners.
That's
I'm extremely
yeah.
jammed.
I'm
Yeah.
going to ask you to repeat that on the record.
Can you show?
Why
Just
is
say-
it so cramped on her side?
I really need those comments on the record. That was not into a mic.
I don't think it's cramped on her side. If anything, I gave her more setback. She's just saying about moving the garage, but right now we have the most amount of side yard setback on the neighbor's property as it's presented. If I push it back, I'm gonna need a variance for a rear yard setback.
Or if you moved it to the right direction here. If you move to the west 5 feet, you're going to need a variance for the
The
front,
front yard
porch.
setback.
A minor variance for the front porch.
And or I have to redesign the structures, which these proportions are all calculated and figured out to be all equal and consistent. Roof lines all match up. So to move a wall like a foot changes this entire proportion on whichever area it moves, which I don't even know if one can make it work, but that's when you start having like weird roof lines. All my roof lines all are identical. This pitch, they're all the same. So to make that fit in here was not an easy task, for sure.
This is a little misleading though, because on that plan, it does look a little crunched up on her side. It just seems that it's the angle of the rendering makes it seem very roomy, but it looks a little cramped from above.
I mean, her setback is much closer than we are currently. And her drive, I'm not sure where the garage is, if it's in the front here, but I'm not sure if that's the garage or, I guess that's the garage.
So where, if you don't see the cars from the street, where would the cars be on the?
The cars are parked all the way towards the front door
Right.
on the west side. And the garage doors, I mean, these are all points that from past projects that I've.
Is there a way to get this on the screen?
Oh,
There we go. It's way dark.
And is there enough radius to turn the car into the garage?
like I said, if you go into any parking lot, 24 feet is a minimum for a width between two parking stalls when you're driving down an aisle.
Is that correct, Alex?
For two-way traffic, yes.
Two-way
What
traffic.
about turning into a spot?
In a standard parking space, you would have 24 feet of two-way traffic. If it were one-way, you'd have less than that to turn 90 degrees into a space.
And that's with a 5-foot buffer of plantings and whatever her current property. So you could have a total of 10 feet of planting buffer.
Would you pass that up here for 1 second, please? See it bigger.
So it's like a rhomboid, what's that? It's like a parallelogram? It's not, the assumption on looking at it is that it's squared out, but it's squared out in a weird way, right?
It follows the front yard setback.
Yeah.
And it followed this radius, so we had
It
to
was
walk.
at my house.
And then this comes
See, it's-
parallel to this.
And this is driveway here.
This driveway.
And there's no way to preserve the existing trees? You got a permit to tear those down?
Yeah, I wouldn't even be able to put a house in, because then I'd have to build a house like in here somehow. Put a driveway facing the street. I
No,
can't get a driveway, to have this driveway come all the way around and wrap in here. And I have to have parking, even if I can't slide this over anymore, but even if I were to do that, I'd have parking over here. I don't know if it would work, we'd have a lot of,
It's an awkward lot, that's for sure.
that would be a challenge.
You can appease her worry that there's not gonna be a lot of cars seen from the street?
Well,
The
street is a
only car that you would
cul-de-sac.
see is the parking in the front over here, which is kind of blocked by this, which is actually similar to where hers is. I think there's the parking is right here. Yeah. Actually, now I look at it like a similar shape somewhat, minus this little bump out.
The difference is she comes forward, goes into the driveway this way, and you're coming right at it this way.
Well, the good news is the car lights are going away from.
Okay. Are there any other comments from the public? Linda, what's your biggest concern? I'm just going to ask because you're a neighbor. Is it privacy? Is it noise? Is it cars?
It's privacy because of the cars and not so much the headlights. It's just, what if I can just
You're
point
because I'm just
quickly.
going to tell you the guests are going.
Just if I can point.
The guests are going to park more in front of the front door.
Yeah,
The
you're not
owners-
going to see the front door.
But that's not my point. My point is
Yeah.
your concern is cars. Guest cars are going to park by the front door. They're not going to be parking down that. That's going to be owners' cars down there.
Yeah, and how many owners' cars will it be? Probably 3
Don't know.
or
Yeah.
4. It's 6-bedroom house.
But I think in these smaller lots, there's a little bit of a reality in the village that whenever in these half-acre lots, we have this kind of relationship with our neighbors. Because, the house that I live in currently is not dissimilar in where the garage is located next to the neighbor. We tend to park in the garage and down there, but then we just go in the house. Where our guests all park in the turnout out on the street, and they walk to the front door. So the really noisier part of that is not the family getting out; it's really guests and people in nighttime entertainment, which is also over to the right over there. So I sort of understand your concern, but I think, you've been in a world where there hasn't been anything on this land in 20 years?
I've been lucky.
Yeah, for like 20 years.
I've been lucky.
Yeah,
I
for
know.
like 20 years, you haven't had a neighbor. So the
I
reality is,
understand.
no matter what happens, it's going to have some noise compared to what you've had. And
I understand, and he's got a right to build there.
Yeah.
I'm not,
Yeah.
I don't deny any of that.
You actually can't predict. I mean,
Yeah.
some guy built a garage right off my lot,
Yeah.
but it's so far from their house, they've never once used it. I was like, nuts. And then it turned out it doesn't make,
They're going to use it because I don't know if they're going to use it for parking cars, but they're going to use that length of driveway that goes all up alongside my master bedroom is on the front, in the first
Yeah.
floor on the on the side facing the garage. And I have a whole bunch of windows there. But what's going to happen, the garage, the way it's set up there's going to be garbage bins next to the kitchen door, next to the garage. But
that's a reality. That's a
Yeah.
reality of living in the village, though. I mean, what you have to hope that you have respectful neighbors. Is what you have to hope. Because the trash removals once a week. It depends if they have to drag their barrels out or not. It's not a commercial trash situation, so they're not coming at 5 o'clock in the morning. But
Right.
I have to
And
say,
there's-
I hear your concern, but I'm
Yeah.
going to say I think from my perspective, I think he's done a good job. I mean, most of that lot's weed trees because that thing's been overgrown for years. The trees that are right now certainly aren't specimen trees planted by someone, are they?
I doubt it.
I doubt it. I think they're just, when I walked over there, I was like, with me and the deer, I was like, they're mostly weed trees.
I doubt it, but
Yeah.
when I built my house, which is, by the way, on a similar size lot, it's also a tight lot, I worked hard to try and drove my contractor crazy, frankly, trying to save the big trees that were there, even though they're not specimen trees. There are big trees in my yard because
Well, this whole lot, the thing about this lot is the whole lot's full of big trees because nothing's been on it for 20 years.
no, it's only got 2 big trees.
Yeah,
And
so-
they're shown on the survey.
Yeah.
I mean, they're shown like irregular. I think this is the tree. Yeah.
Oh, those trees, okay. There's so much scrub and everything in there. What? Oh, there's more. All right. But I think they've actually, I mean, you have been lucky because you haven't had someone next to you. But I actually think for the size of the lot and what they're trying to do, I would not want to see the driveway go all the way around and loop from the other side because you'd be so much more hardscape than we have now. So I think, thank you for comments. So any other comments from the public? I think that's a no. So I'm actually going to vote to approve this and see where we go. So I'm going to motion, is that what you'd like us to do? Okay, I'm actually going to motion to approve the design of 9 Bower Drive as presented from drawings stamped in August 23rd, 2024. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay.
Thanks.
But I will ask that you be respectful in the construction, understand, and hopefully, you know, you make good neighbors.
I'll mention it to my client and to the potential builder when we select somebody, so.
Yeah.
Yes. Thanks.
All right, so that brings us to, down to Adam Stone, 88 Fowler Street for an automatic driveway gate.
This went longer than I could ever.
We're expecting a short meeting. Very short
We
meeting.
expect a lot of stuff.
Okay,
You too? Oh, I know it looked simple, didn't it?
Good evening, Mark Cirillo from AutoGate Systems, representing 83 Fowler Street. Resubmission of this gate design where we eliminated 2 horizontal slats across the entire length and have equal size spaces to the width of the Alaskan yellow cedar slat.
Can we get this on the screen just for the record?
so just
Thank you.
Just answer for this for me, where you're calling out 2-inch by 1.5-inch Alaskan yellow cedar, is the 2-inch the depth and the 1.5 the width?
2 inches is the height, the
height.
section
the
that we're looking
the
at.
facing.
And the 2 inch
So
space.
it's
to
2,
the-
2, 2, 2, 2,
Correct.
2, so it should be, okay. Board members?
Okay.
Jane? You weren't here last time. The issue we had this gate last time is that it was not 40% transparent.
Okay. And how big is the gate? How tall?
6 feet.
And how big is a piece of property?
Huge.
Huge? Okay.
Yeah, this is,
I'm sorry. It is.
it is.
It's a technical term.
Yes.
It's
It's larger than 1 acre.
It's larger than the gate.
Yes.
Put it that way.
Okay, just because.
Just for, yeah, it's for height and code
And
reasons.
well,
It's
yeah,
larger
you
than, it's
don't-
larger than 40,000 square
It's not
feet.
exactly a rendering,
Yeah.
it's a little,
Yes.
It's a elevation sketch.
I think
Yeah.
before these are
Okay.
maybe.
I'm fine with it.
Kathy,
She's asleep. Yo.
No, I'm here.
Oh.
are you fine with this gate?
I am. I'm fine.
Oh.
If it meets the requirements.
Yeah, it's 50%. It's 50% with the slats. If you take in the framing around it, it falls down to about, I calculated between 45 and 46%, but it's still more than 40% transparent.
Right.
Nina?
Yep, that's fine.
It's fine with me.
Okay.
Finally.
Okay, so motion to approve the gate for
Something Fowler.
83
for
Fowler.
83 Fowler Street from drawings dated September 13th, 2024 with 2-inch slats. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
A motion to adjourn. Do we have anything else that you needed from us tonight, Alex? No?
No, I think that
Great.
was it. And
Motion
we
to
have the
adjourn
next
the
meetings
September,
noted there.
motion to adjourn the September 23rd meeting of the Southampton Board of Architecture, Boone Historic Preservation. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.